Evening, I'm Spot On Weather meteorologist Matthew Euler. Welcome to my latest video. This is the forecast update as of the 4th of February 2024. All of this updated information is courtesy of the 12Z model data from Sunday, the 4th of February 2024. Today's overview will be the same as the previous videos. We will go ahead and take a look at the thickness and temperature anomaly charts, the forecasts, the European, the EPS, as well as the Jeff's 500 millibar anomaly charts. Then we'll move into the longer range prognostication, teleconnections forecast and how they may tie in with the longer range prognostication, the stratospheric polar vortex forecast, and finally, to end tonight's video, final thoughts. All right, so as always, let's go ahead and start with the next 7 days, the weather charts for the next 7 days. We'll kick it off with tomorrow, Monday, the 5th of February, 2024. The next 7 slides, I'll be showing you thickness charts here on the left. And just to break it down in more simplistic terms, whenever you have these dashed red lines, they represent higher thickness values, warmer temperatures. Whenever you see the blue dashed lines, that is indicative of lower thicknesses and colder temperatures. So thickness and temperature are directly proportional to each other. If you have lower thickness, you have colder temperatures. If you have higher thickness, you have higher temperatures. And so in addition to the thickness plots and the lines here on these forecast charts, we also have green coloring that's associated with precipitation. It really doesn't delineate here rain versus snow. It's just showing you areas of precipitation here on these charts, on each of the next 7 slides here, these thickness charts. On the right hand side of each of the next 7 slides, I'll show you the temperature anomalies from the European model, from the 12Z model today, the 4th of February 2024. Generally, you see numbers associated with some of these colorings over here on the right of these temperature anomaly charts. That's associated with how much above or below normal the temperatures will be. And these are in degrees Fahrenheit, these temperature departures, these numbers. Anything in blue and green on the temperature anomaly or the temperature anomaly charts here on the right are associated with colder temperatures or below normal temperatures. Anything with the maroons and the oranges, the brown coloring is indicative of above normal temperatures. So let's get started here. Let's take a look at the thickness chart here on the left. For tomorrow, the 5th of February 2024, we have an area of low pressure situated off the southeastern coast there, just southeast of South Carolina. We have area of precipitation to the north of that low pressure system, generally extending into portions of coastal South Carolina for tomorrow. We also see another low pressure system there to the west of Tampa, Florida, associated with more precipitation across South Florida for Monday. Looking pretty good across the Northeast, looking pretty good across the upper Midwest as well as the Midwest. The central and southern plains look great for tomorrow. If you have any travel plans, there will be another area of lower pressure there off the west coast, just off northern California at 995 millibars. Central pressure, scattered showers in Washington, Oregon, as well as snows continuing into the Sierra Nevada. And we have this atmospheric river here that, let me go ahead and get this tool up. We have an atmospheric river effect here into Southern California for tomorrow, continuing into portions of Los Angeles. Eventually, that rain will move a little bit further south into San Diego. Way too much rain over this area over such a short amount of time with this atmospheric river, this plume of excessive tropical moisture coming in. Over here on the right, we have the temperature anomaly chart tomorrow for departures from normal, generally showing you where it'll be the warmest, generally over the northern plain states. As you can see, we have much above normal temperatures across Minnesota, the Dakotas, and parts of Wisconsin, Iowa, eastern Nebraska. Well above normal. We're talking 15 to as much as nearly 30 degrees Fahrenheit above normal across parts of eastern North Dakota as well as northwestern Minnesota. And well above normal temperatures continue across south central Canada as well. The only cool spots tomorrow will be in association with clouds and precipitation across southern South Carolina into central southern Georgia, the Florida Peninsula, along Interstate 10, Tallahassee, Panama City, Pensacola, Mobile, Alabama, as well as Biloxi, Mississippi, and New Orleans, slightly below normal temperatures tomorrow. And again, that's associated with these clouds over here on the left and the precipitation. If we look at in Southern California as well, will be below normal, again associated with precip and clouds. Looking ahead now to the forecast for Tuesday, the 6th of February, 2024. It will be an area of intense low pressure off the southeast coast across the western Atlantic at 992 millibar central pressure. So this thing is fairly strong across that western portion of the North Atlantic. All the precipitation pretty much offshore, however, not really impacting Florida at this point in time on Tuesday, nor the Carolinas or Georgia. What we will have to the north up here, however, will be, let me get this changed out here real quick. It's going to look elaborate. We'll have an area of high pressure up here to the north. And so the difference in pressure between this high pressure to the north and this low pressure to the south right here is going to result in funneling winds from the north-northeast, generally into the mid-Atlantic as well as the coastal Carolina area for Tuesday, the 6th of February. So it's going to be quite breezy along these areas here for Tuesday. Chilly north-northeast wind blowing in off the North Atlantic waters. If we look at additionally, out west, we see an area of rain across parts of Nevada into Southern California, just lingering effects of showers. We have an upper level low further to the west of the San Francisco Bay. Generally across much of the U.S., though, looks fairly dry, central U.S., Midwest for Tuesday. The temperature anomaly chart here on the right, again, showing you, let me see here, showing you much above normal temperatures across the northern plains, upper Midwest, Minnesota. You're 25 to 30 degrees Fahrenheit above normal for Tuesday. And the beat goes on in the upper Midwest and Wisconsin and Michigan, as well as Minnesota and the Dakotas and even eastern Nebraska. Omaha, 22 to 23 degrees Fahrenheit above normal for Tuesday for the highs. Cooler temperatures are going to be located along the Virginia coastline down through the Carolina coastline, as well as Georgia into Florida. That's associated with those northeasterly winds, again, coming in off the North Atlantic. We will see below normal temperatures also across the state of California. We still have some clouds and some lingering showers. Moving on now to the forecast for Wednesday, the 7th of February, 2024. We see a 988 millibar low pressure system generally moving to the northeast and well away from the east coast of the United States. And so the only lingering effect of that low pressure system will be the continued breezy conditions, generally extending down the coast here, immediate coastline on Wednesday. These winds will eventually subside, and you'll see that on the next slide here for Thursday, the 8th of February. Those winds are going to subside as this low pressure pulls away and continues moving out into the open waters of the Atlantic. We still also see on Wednesday some scattered showers across the Intermountain West, Montana, Idaho, Utah, Colorado. We see scattered precipitation. This could be in the form of snow at the higher elevations. And then over here on the right, we see where the coldest temperature anomalies will be in association with more cloud coverage, again, across the desert Southwest, Nevada, California, southern Oregon as well. And then we see below normal temperatures continuing along the mid-Atlantic coastal areas down to the southeast coastal areas from southeast Virginia down to Florida for Wednesday the 7th. Look at this expansive area of just warmth again, generally associated with upper level ridge. 30 degrees Fahrenheit above normal high temperatures for Wednesday across southwestern Minnesota, as well as parts of eastern South Dakota and northwestern Iowa. Unbelievable. Also very warm conditions, well above normal across New England on Wednesday the 7th. Looking at the forecast now for Thursday, 8 February 2024, we do see an area of low pressure, 990 millibar low pressure area across parts of western Minnesota. And look how mild things are all the way up here in this area of the upper Midwest, Wisconsin and Michigan. If you're a snowmobile lover, you like to ride your snowmobile out over in Wisconsin or something, you are like, what in the world's going on with this weather? I can't stand this mild weather. We do see a cold front, which is going to be extending back from that low pressure center over western Minnesota, and it's going to be working its way more towards the southeast over time. But ahead of it, we got a lot of mild conditions across the southeast, working its way now up to the mid-Atlantic, Ohio Valley, up to Michigan, Wisconsin. This area is going to feature above normal temperatures for the most part by Thursday, the 8th of February. The coolest readings, look over here on the right, are going to be generally here across the western United States in the blue and the green coloring. But again, 30 to 35 degrees Fahrenheit above normal across Iowa by the time we get to Thursday, the 8th of February, 2024. Just unreal. Forecast now for Friday, the 9th of February, 2024. We see the cold front. It is working its way towards the east. It's moving, and we have some scattered showers out ahead of that cold front across portions of northern Louisiana, northern Mississippi, into central Tennessee, Nashville area, as well as eastern Kentucky and also up into West Virginia. Believe it or not, we have mild enough air to be showers up in West Virginia even. We do see the areas of low pressure generally up here over southeastern Canada working their way to the northeast. Eventually, this colder air, these blue dashed lines, will continue advancing to the southeast. These showers are fairly light in nature, however, in these parts of the U.S. We do see colder temperatures across the western U.S. for Friday. So as this trough digs, this warming rises to the north or goes to the north as far as ridging. And so you see an expansive area of well above, on the right here, an expansive area of above normal temperatures for all the eastern U.S. for Friday. And then the below normal temperatures in the blues and greens out in the desert southwest. Forecast now for Saturday, the 10th of February, 2024. We see that area of showers generally extending over North Carolina, working its way southwestward towards Mississippi. So there might be some light showers in these areas for Saturday. We do see this cooler air is really trying to work its way down to the southeast, but the boundary is very weak. This frontal boundary is very weak at this point in time. We don't really have the necessary push to really get this front cleared off the coast. We do see cooler than normal temperatures here on the right, again across the desert southwest for yet another day on Saturday. That's in association with a digging trough. We do see still some above normal temperature anomalies in New England down through West Virginia and the mid-Atlantic for Saturday. So it's going to be above normal. 10 to 15 to as much as 20 degrees Fahrenheit above normal in New England for next Saturday, the 10th of February. And then finally, let's take a look at the forecast for Sunday, the 11th of February, 2024. Now we got a little something else to play with here. We have a digging trough here, these blue dashed lines, colder air working its way in towards Texas. We got an area of low pressure that's going to start to develop here in Texas by this point in time. And so we got a lot of heavy showers and even some potential thunderstorms across southeast Texas ahead of this boundary, this frontal boundary and this trough. And so we're going to see some pretty good rainfall for you in Oklahoma, North Texas, North Louisiana, southern Arkansas, north and central Mississippi and Alabama by the time we get to next Sunday, the 11th of February. You see some of these blue dashed lines up here to the north. We have some pretty significant cold air situated across southeast Canada at this point in time. But it's not quite making it all the way down into the mid-Atlantic yet. We do see on the right the temperature departure forecast showing well below normal temperatures in the green, 10 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit below normal across Utah, Colorado, Arizona, New Mexico, into Texas and Oklahoma City, or 14 degrees Fahrenheit below normal high temperature by Sunday, the 11th of February. And then we see the milder temperatures continuing right along the eastern seaboard, anywhere from 5 to 10, and then you get up to New England, 15 degrees Fahrenheit above normal high temperatures. Finally, across Minnesota, you're in Iowa, you're not 30 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. Now you'll have to settle for 8 to 15 degrees Fahrenheit above normal temperature readings. So we're starting to see a little bit of change at this point. See this blue, the color here, starting to extend towards Tennessee, starting to work its way, point its way towards the southeast and mid-Atlantic. We're starting to see some changes at this point next Sunday. So now let's examine the ensemble forecasts. This is the 500 millibar heights and anomalies. And this is, I'm solely going to use the European ensemble prediction system on these following charts. I'm going to basically pair these up into two specific dates on each chart. So we'll just kind of go through the sequence, 2 dates at a time on each slide. What I'm showing you here with these charts are the anomalies, the height anomalies at 500 millibars or 18,000 feet above the ground. Whenever you see the green coloring and the purple coloring, this is associated with troughs. Whenever you see the brown and the white coloring, the maroon coloring, that's associated with ridges. Why is it important to examine these features? Because whenever you have these troughs, they're generally associated with more stormy conditions, precipitation, and cooler than normal temperatures. Whenever we look at the ridges, they're generally associated with sinking vertical air motion, a drier air mass, and less precipitation. So mild and dry beneath the ridges, cool and moist or more precip associated with the troughs. So that's why we look at these positions of these features. Okay, so starting with the 5th, tomorrow, Monday the 5th, what are we looking at here? Okay, so let's go back here. All right, so initially we have that major trough, the upper level trough crashing into California, not Florida. California, there's a trough, upper level trough moving into California tomorrow afternoon. We have this massive upper level ridge still continuing to be situated over south central Canada, working its way up to Hudson Bay. We have a trough beneath the ridge across the northeastern Gulf of Mexico, and another trough further north of the northeast Atlantic. So below normal heights in the green coloring off the western North Atlantic, and then well above normal heights and very mild temperatures beneath this ridge here across south central Canada, and cool and very wet into California tomorrow. Let's take a look now on the right. This is the forecast for 6 February, Tuesday, showing that trough working its way into the California coast even further. We have the ridge still in place. It has moved slightly to the northeast towards northeastern Canada this would be by Tuesday, the 6th of February. And then we have the upper level low, that trough generally situated off just the east of Florida over the western Atlantic Ocean by Tuesday. Moving ahead now, the forecast 500 millibar heights and anomalies for the 7th of February here on the left, showing below normal heights and troughiness there across the western U.S. Just downstream of that, we have the ridging, again, this massive ridge, which has been persisting for well in excess of 7 days, situated over central and eastern Canada, and then another trough downstream into the western Atlantic Ocean. So we have a ridge axis. You kind of see it, what's happening here over time. We have this ridge axis here over the central U.S., over the Ohio Valley, extending to, northeastward into eastern Canada. This eventually is going to move east over time. So let's take a look at the map here on the right. You definitely see that massive area of higher than normal heights across southeast Canada. You see the ridge axis is now right along the east coast by this point in time on the 8th, which would be Wednesday. And then you see this upper level low over the western Atlantic, and that is going to continue just kind of hang out. This low eventually will eject out to sea, this upper low here. But in general, we have troughing moving into southwestern U.S. Whenever you get the troughing to dig out here in the western U.S., the heights and the thicknesses are going to rise in the east. Forecast now for 9 February 2024 for the 500 millibar heights and anomalies. I still have, for the 9th, Friday, I have a lot of troughing across the western U.S. And then you kind of see the ridge axis is now moving just offshore the east coast, but it's still a very strong ridge here, extending from the western Atlantic up through southeastern Canada. And so anything with the orange coloring here indicates slightly above normal heights, and that's where your mildest readings are going to be. Over here on the right, we take a look at the latest forecast for, this would be Saturday. Yep, that'd be Saturday. Kind of see the trough now starting to move a little bit further to the east over time on Saturday the 10th of February 2024. And now look where the ridge axis is. It's further to the northeast now. It's heading up towards Greenland. So it won't be as mild here. It'll still be mild, but the greatest sinking air motion is going to be beneath this deeper hue of orange. We do now see also an important feature here developing, and this is the ridging across the western, or the eastern portions of the North Pacific, rather, the western portions of Canada. This ridging is going to be very important over time, and I'll show you why here in a minute. Here is the ensemble forecast, 500 millibar heights and anomalies now on the left for 11 February 2024. We now see that ridging. This is an important feature here, okay? Look where the ridging is. I'm really off on that, by the way. The ridge axis actually will be here, a little bit further to the west of what I originally placed it. But anyway, we've got ridging here over the northeastern Pacific into the Pacific Northwest into western Canada. Downstream of that ridging now we have a trough that's now going to be approaching Texas. And then we have, and generally ahead of these troughs, these shortwave troughs, by the way, in this location, it's usually where we see areas of low pressure and storm systems develop. And we definitely have that by Sunday starting to develop across this area. We see the ridging now well up into Greenland now, okay? So that's a big change. Over here on the right is the forecast for Monday, the 12th of February, 2024, and look at the ridging here, guys. Look at the ridging here. Right along the immediate west coast of Canada, and we see the troughing now over portions of the Missouri River Valley into Oklahoma, into Texas. And now we don't have yellow coloring on the east coast anymore, do we? That means that the heights are falling, and the ridging is now working its way up into southern Greenland at this point. Looking ahead now at the forecast on the left for 500 millibar heights anomaly forecast for Tuesday the 13th of February 2024. And look at this ridge. These heights are building. These heights are rising. This thing is now extending all the way up into Alaska by this point in time. The higher this thing builds, this ridge, the deeper this trough is going to get downstream of it in the east. So the higher the heights go out here, the lower the heights go over here across the eastern U.S. And we see the blue coloring now across the eastern U.S. by Tuesday, the 13th of February, indicating lower than normal heights. All right, that's an important thing to look at. Over here on the right, we take a look at the forecast now for Valentine's Day. What's Valentine's Day going to be like? Look at this ridging all the way up into Alaska again. Sharp amplitude ridging, by the way, right here. And then we have downstream of that, we start seeing some colder air start coming down from Canada into the eastern U.S., into the mid-Atlantic, specifically right in this location here. The green coloring is indicating an elongation of the trough, and you notice that is right over the western waters of the North Atlantic. This is a colder look. Things are starting to transition to colder temperatures in the east. Moving on now to Thursday, the 15th of February, 2024. The major synoptic players here are this huge upper level ridge into Alaska. I hope you enjoyed all the snow and cold, that bitter cold in Alaska, because guess what? Next week, there's signs by these ensembles that that's going to come to an end and it's going to become milder up in Alaska again. Downstream of that major shortwave ridge, we have a dip in the jet stream, and look at that. Look at the green coloring extending back to the mid-Atlantic, all the way in the western portions of the North Atlantic. Yeah, there's a lot of below normal heights across the east by this point in time, which is what you really, really want if you want colder temperatures in the east and potential wintry weather. If we look at the Greenland area, look at this ridging. Look at this ridging here. This is an association with a negative North Atlantic oscillation, that ridging into Greenland. You see the stretching out now of the polar vortex as well. I'll show you what that looks like here in a moment on a different chart, but you see the stretching of the vortex a little bit further from the Arctic area working its way southeast. And then here's the 500 millibar heights and anomaly forecast for Friday the 16th of February. The ridging is persistent. It is persistent and it is strong from northwestern portions of the U.S., working our way up the western coast of Canada into Alaska. And then downstream of that again, look at this troughing, the green coloring here across the western Atlantic. And then look at the negative NAO here. Look at these heights up here over Greenland. So we got a really good situation here by the 15th and 16th of February for sure, where we get lower than normal heights across the eastern U.S. And then finally, let's look at the forecast, 500 millibar heights and anomalies, European Ensemble Prediction System for the 17th of February, 2024. You see the ridging. The ridging is here. It's strong, it's bold, and it means business. And whenever you get the heights again to rise out in this location, positive PNA, you're going to have a trough downstream into the eastern U.S. And that's exactly what we have for Saturday, the 17th of February. This is a different upper air pattern entirely from what we're seeing right now. And then finally here on the right, the forecast for the 18th of February, 2024, we see the ridging. It is staying in place. It's going nowhere. It's up into Alaska, the ridge axis. And then we still see colder than normal temperatures across the immediate eastern seaboard as well as the western Atlantic. And then look at this. Wow, look at that. That ridging, that strong negative NAO, anomalously high heights into Greenland at this point in time. All right, so now let's examine the latest forecast for the Norfolk, Virginia area. We are going to take a look now and examine the GFS 10-day temperature outlook on the left and the European on the right. And you'll notice this week is rather chilly in the Norfolk area. You know, high temperatures generally in the middle to upper 40s Monday through, I think this is probably, the GFS is a little bit too low. I think on Thursday will probably be up around 50, 51 in Norfolk. But I do agree with these lower temperatures here Monday through Wednesday with that strong, persistent onshore northeasterly wind from the North Atlantic. So it's going to be a chilly one, especially Tuesday and Wednesday, I think, will be the chilliest days. And then the GFS in the future beyond that, we get into next weekend. And look at this. Break out your t-shirts, everybody. Spring is back, Saturday through Monday, the 10th of February through the 12th of February. 66, 67 to 69 high temperatures before we start seeing those changes to the colder pattern around the 14th, Valentine's Day. Over here on the right, we compare it to the European model. Very similar for Tuesday and Wednesday, highs in the low 40s. And then, yeah, I kind of agree with this one a little bit more, low 50s for Thursday as we start seeing some modification of the air mass and those winds let up from the onshore winds let up. And then it's another mild situation next Saturday, but you notice there's more of a drop here on Sunday on the European model because there's a cold front that moves through temporarily, and that allows temps to drop briefly for one day before going back up 67 on Monday the 12th, and then dropping again. The cooler pattern starts setting in around the 13th in this case. So just showing you some differences in the modeling and the temperature outlook. Going to be chilly early part of this week. Major modification of the air mass by next weekend with highs into the 60s for Norfolk. Now let's examine the teleconnections forecast. What is the latest? All right, so this is all these teleconnections forecasts are from the European EPS, 50 perturbed members. So we have 50 different members of this ensemble forecasting system. Whenever you see this green line, that's the average of all the forecast ensemble members. Whenever this green line dips, now look at this, look on the left here. See how these are negative values? Whenever you're in negative territory, especially over here, it really goes sharply negative between the 14th and 19th, you're going to have cold temperatures in the eastern U.S. when you get a negative AO. Another big thing about the Arctic oscillation, the AO, is the fact that when it goes negative this sharply, that tells us that something's going on with the stratospheric polar vortex that's undergoing a weakening. Looking at the North Atlantic oscillation forecast, we're slightly negative, okay? We're kind of sitting around neutral conditions today, but it's going to go slightly negative between the 5th to about the 11th here of February, but then it drops more sharply negative beyond the 11th of February, and that represents cold temperatures whenever the North Atlantic oscillation NAO goes negative. What happens is we have these higher than normal heights here across parts of Greenland, and that's what the ensembles are showing us. So it's matching up very well with its ensemble forecast. Let's take a look now at the teleconnections forecast, the Eastern Pacific oscillation. Whenever we get positive EPO, okay, where this green line is above the zero line here, into positive territory, that's indicative of milder temperatures in the east. But when SEPO goes negative, like this period here, okay, between the 13th and 19th, that is going to allow for some ridging into the Gulf of Alaska, potentially up through Alaska, which we were seeing on the ensemble. That's going to result in much colder temperatures being brought in to the United States. And then finally, the Pacific North American pattern, PNA pattern. Whenever it's positive, that is indicative of cold temperatures, okay? So you notice how much more positive things get up here between, say, the 12th and the 18th. Conditions get really positive with that Pacific North American pattern. That means the heights are rising like I showed you here. You're having ridging in this location. So that's associated with that positive PNA, and you're going to have colder temperatures favored in the eastern U.S. So when I say cold, I'm talking about the eastern U.S. and mid-Atlantic in particular. So good signs from the Arctic oscillation dropping significantly negative after the 13th of February. Good sign from the NAO going negative, staying negative. Good sign from the EPO, cross-polar flow going negative, specifically after the 13th of February. And a great sign from the Pacific North American PNA pattern going strongly positive after the 13th. So things are still aligning. The stars are still aligning if you want colder temperatures and maybe one last hurrah, one last shot maybe of getting some wintry precip in the east and the mid-Atlantic. Now let's examine the Madden-Julian oscillation forecast and see what it's looking like. This is the Jeff's V12 extended outlook on the left. You see where it's going. Okay, so where are we at? We are right around here, the 5th right now, and it's kind of monkeying around here in phase 7. We don't like phase 7 in the east if you want colder temperatures because phase 7 is a fairly milder phase this time of year. But you see what happens over time. This thing is going into phase 8 and potentially into phase 1, which that's a very good situation if you want colder temperatures in the east. All these yellow lines, by the way, are all the different ensemble members of this GFS and the ensemble system. So there are some ensemble members that are showing, even stronger phase 8 potential here from the Jeffs, especially after the mid part of February. If we look at the forecast here on the right, the European extended outlook, it's also monkeying around here in phase 7. See that? We don't like that. That means convection is in the Western Pacific, and that favors milder temperatures in the eastern U.S. Eventually, though, by the 13th, it crosses the line over into phase 8. And look at all these ensemble members from the European system here, generally showing a lot of yellow clustering here of these lines into phase 8. So this could be stronger into phase 8. Right now, the average of all the ensembles has it going right into the null phase by around the 21st of February. Now, let's examine the stratospheric polar vortex, the latest forecast on it. I shared some of this earlier on social media. These white solid lines are your height contours, and notice how they're stretched. They're more oval shaped. See this? See how they're more elongated and stretched out? I mean, look at how stretched out these are. I mean, that's some really good stretched out lines, these white lines. And then you have these yellow colors here indicating stratospheric warming temperatures. So we have indications still, not much from my last video has changed with this, of an elongated, stretched out polar vortex around the middle of February. Okay, and what does that mean? Why do we care about this? Because that means the polar vortex is undergoing a weakening phase. That means when we have a stretched out polar vortex, it generally tends to favor colder temperatures in eastern portions of North America. Okay, and that weakened stratospheric polar vortex ties in nicely with this Arctic oscillation forecast, the AO. Whenever this AO is strong, or I shouldn't say strong, whenever the polar vortex is strong, the AO tends to be up here in a positive territory. See this? Positive values here above the zero line. That's when you have a strong stratospheric polar vortex. The AO is positive. But when you see the weakening of the vortex, it results in a much more negative Arctic oscillation. So there you have it. So it kind of ties in nicely to what we're seeing. Right, so here's my final thoughts on tonight's video. These are all based on the 4 February 12Z models. I know this is going to change, and I know 2 days from now you might be calling me crazy for saying this stuff. Okay. First things first, we're going to see breezy and chilly conditions this week across. Now, this forecast, by the way, is for the Mid-Atlantic and really focused to more specifically on Southeast Virginia and the Hampton Road cities. But there will be some nuggets in here that will impact you who live outside of Virginia as well in the east and the Mid-Atlantic. Okay, so breezy and chilly for coastal Mid-Atlantic areas. Tuesday, the 6th of February coming up, and then Wednesday, the 7th of February, we're going to have very strong, persistent northeast winds. There also, for the Hampton Road cities, could be nuisance to minor tidal flooding at high tidal cycles, okay? So just putting that out there. The wind is going to diminish by Thursday, the 8th of February, as that low pressure moves further out to sea. We'll have higher pressure moving in by that point in time. All right, on Thursday, it should be relatively overhead. We're expecting dry and milder conditions, slightly milder from Wednesday. Not super mild yet because we don't have that low pressure or the high pressure offshore yet. We don't have those south-southwest winds blowing just yet. High pressure moves offshore. You'll start seeing those return southerly winds starting specifically Friday the 9th of February through Monday the 12th of February. And then we'll see much milder temps into the 60s over that period next weekend. Now, I will say the models are kind of in differing opinions here for next weekend. This is not a done deal yet, is what I'm getting at. Because, for example, the GFS model, the 12Z run, was showing a low pressure further back to the west and stronger southerly winds coming into the Mid-Atlantic for next weekend. But I did take a look at the 18Z GFS before I started this video, and it's changed. The storm track on the 18Z GFS is much further south, and that makes a difference in how much southerly winds we'll see in the Mid-Atlantic for next weekend. But as of right now, it looks milder. This is subject to change here, bullet 3. Then we'll see an upper level ridge. We know this is going to happen for sure here, bullet 4. We will see the upper level ridge. It's going to slide to the eastern portions of Canada. It's going to result in peak intensity about Friday, the 9th of November. So we'll have some fairly mild temperatures on Friday. And then we'll see a weak cold front kind of drop into southeast Virginia on Saturday, the 10th of February. Slightly cooler temps. Right now it doesn't look like much rain, but that could change. It will still remain milder than normal for next Saturday. Now, we will see a true pattern transition. That's going to be the key. It's going to begin on Tuesday, the 13th of February. We're going to have lower than normal heights moving south into the Mid-Atlantic. We'll start seeing that, okay? We also have the potential for a stronger storm system to develop to our west. Now, I have the question mark here because the 12Z GFS, which I was going off 12Z models in this forecast, they were showing a low pressure developing, fairly strong low pressure from Kentucky moving up to Ohio, which would put us in the warm sector 100%. And then we would see moderate rain coming in. Now, we still see moderate rain on the latest run. It's just the temperatures aren't as mild. They'll still be mild, they just won't be 60s. Maybe they're in the 50s instead for this particular time, Tuesday the 13th of February. So just wanted to throw that out there. There are model differences in here, okay? Colder temps begin then seeping into Southeast Virginia and the Mid-Atlantic on Valentine's Day. Storm system right up here that I'm talking about, regardless, it is going to move to the northeast, and it is going to drag a cold front through the area. So we will see colder temperatures, and that pattern change really start seeping in here around the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. And then there's going to be a stronger upper level trough that kind of just comes in and dominates the East Coast 15th and 16th February, and we'll see colder than normal temperatures setting up. The teleconnections remain great if you want cold in the mid-Atlantic, eastern U.S. We see that negative NAO, negative AO, negative EPO, positive PNA, and the MJO potentially moving into phase 8. So we like the direction of all these. If you want a pattern change, you want colder temperatures in mid to late February for the eastern U.S. The stratospheric polar vortex is forecast to undergo weakening during middle February. This is going to result in a stretch or the elongated vortex structure, which I showed you, that also will favor colder temperatures in eastern North America as well as the eastern U.S. This here, guys, this is it. Stretched out polar vortex. But now, I have to talk. Last bit of information in the video, okay? These are the things that go through my head. I examine these models very closely today. These are my questions right now in my mind. Will the colder patterns set in more continuously, or will that cold air come in chunks or waves beyond middle February? Okay. All right, we saw the major Arctic chill in January, right? The model's about 10 days out from that major Arctic chill moving into the east. Initially showed Arctic air pretty much locked in for an extended period of time, okay? About 10 days. What happened in January, however, is the Arctic air kind of came in waves. And then in between those little waves of Arctic air that came down from Canada, you'd have a little bit of a moderation in temperatures. So what I've observed in the last Arctic shot of cold air in January was very cold, dry, moderation, moisture and clouds and precip in the mid-Atlantic. Then the second shot of Arctic air comes down and it dries out again behind that moisture and that precip. Are we heading down the same path in late February? That's possible. We could see brief periods of temperature moderation in between the Arctic surges. And so when you get the temperature moderation to milder temperatures, will we see the rain move in, liquid precip? And then will we see that followed by another Arctic surge of cold, dry air? This is a possibility for the mid-Atlantic. The operational models, they're all over the place right now. I don't trust GFS operational as compared to the GFS ensemble. These two models on 12Z were completely out to lunch, opposite of each other. 12Z operational GFS versus the 12Z GFS ensemble was like night and day. GFS ensemble, rock solid continuity for colder temperatures in the east and mid-Atlantic, whereas the GFS operational was like, nah, it's not going to be that cold. These GFS operational runs will continue to go all over the place, so disregard those details right now from the operational models. And finally, my final slide here. Based on what I'm seeing, we have the potential for more than one major storm system in late February, based on this favorable upper air pattern I went through on the ensemble charts, the 500 millibar heights and anomalies. But will it be one big storm system, or will it be multiple storm systems? In order to get that one big storm system, we'd have to have phasing of the northern stream energy, colder trough digging, southern stream energy coming up from the south with the subtropical jet. That would result in the bigger storm system when we have phasing of the northern and southern streams of energy. Or will we not see any phasing? And will the systems be weaker? Too early to tell. All right. Will also the storm track be more suppressed to the south? Now look, there's a lot of us out there that want, one last hurrah of winter, and we want like snow. But we have to be realistic here. The storm track could very well be suppressed to the immediate Gulf Coast of Florida. And what will happen is that will happen if we have cold air, extremely cold Arctic air moving down from Canada into the eastern US and mid-Atlantic. That's going to suppress the storm track and keep it south. Coastal storms will go straight east out to sea and we will remain dry. So kind of pick your poison here. You want cold, yes, but you don't want too cold of air because then you got stronger high pressure systems that are coming down from the north and they can actually build in further south, dry out the air column, and your major storm track and moisture stay to the south. So be careful what you wish for. The stratospheric polar vortex is definitely looking like it's going to undergo weakening mid to late February. Question remains on that too. Will it be a stretched out, elongated event? I think it will be at a minimum. Or will it be something more significant in late February, resulting in a split stratospheric polar vortex? Why do I care about a stretch versus a split polar vortex? Because a stretched event lasts shorter duration. A split stratospheric polar vortex event lasts much longer, and usually it's colder temperatures in the eastern US. Details on all of these questions that are just racing through my head, details are yet to be determined. Stay tuned. Way too early in the game to get specific. Again, especially with the storm potential, okay? We could have one major huge winter storm. We could have one huge big storm, or maybe just multiple, like weaker storms. We could have some that phase and some that don't. And we could also have storms further south, storm track further south, which is just going to be below normal temps and dry. A lot yet remains to be determined. That's all I've got right now. That's my last slide tonight. Hope you enjoyed the presentation. I'm breaking this down the best I can. This is a nice look, guys. Okay, this is a nice look. We're getting colder, lower than normal heights. We're getting colder temperatures in the east. We know this, but will it be enough as far as the storm track? Will they meet? Will the moisture meet the cold? Bottom line, if the moisture meets the cold, we're going to have at least one, maybe a couple different storm systems late February and early March. Again, time is of the essence in the mid-Atlantic. Each passing day, the sun is getting stronger and stronger. The amount of daylight is getting later and later. Sunset down here in southeastern Virginia is now past 5:30 p.m. now, and the light lingers until after 6 p.m. So it gets a little bit more difficult with each passing day. So if we're really going to strike gold, my main thought is I think that earlier system, the 13th and 14th, that time period, will be more of a transitional system. The cold will finally start coming in behind that storm system. And then I think once the cold is established, that 18th of February, like that 18th to 21st of February, the cold will be in place potentially. And if we get just a southern stream system coming up from the Gulf, Northeast Gulf, up off the East Coast, we could be in business. But that's all I got for now, everybody. I thank you for subscribing to my channel. Until next time, everybody, take care and God bless everyone.